Welcome back for today's installment of Cardano Insights, where we track the important developments at the very pulse of Cardano and its ecosystem. So let's get straight into it. First up today, and this week Charles gave us a brilliant 10-minute insight into the concept of RealFi, which is something IOG through Cardano are going to be focusing on heavily throughout 2023. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend that everyone takes 10 minutes out of their day to watch this video, which I've linked in the description below, as the delivery of RealFi is going to play a major role in the wider adoption of blockchain technology and progression of this industry. But let's briefly break down what he presented. So the purpose of his video was to lay out what is RealFi, how this differs from DeFi, and why this is such an important evolution if we're to see blockchain succeed in its attempt to become the world's financial operating system. Currently there are 5 key categories missing from DeFi, which he described is what makes RealFi a superset of this: identity, metadata, governance, standards and certification, and when this all comes together, you have the main ingredients that form a regulatory structure. So first, RealFi is DeFi with identity, meaning the dApps running on a blockchain have some kind of identifier and the people interacting with those dApps have some notion of providing identity. Not necessarily an identity that we know of in its traditional sense, but enough identity to understand they are in fact interacting with a unique individual. This is where the concept of zero-knowledge proofs plays a major role. This paves the way for enabling anonymity to the level where everyone else in the network doesn't know the details pertaining to an individual's identity, but to a specific person or dApp that requires it, the identity is known. Then comes metadata. This is the part where a story is told about the nature of an individual, the funds in the account, the history of those funds, the transactions that go into a smart contract, for instance. Through metadata, a wider picture is painted. Then comes governance. This is about how we upgrade, update or change the DeFi that currently exists. For example, a dApp, DEX or stablecoin. How are these upgraded? Who gets to decide this? And what is the process behind it? Then standards and certification, something Cardano and IOG are very much intent on pioneering in the blockchain industry. Through standards and certification, we can understand if there are characteristics or things in DeFi or ways of doing things in DeFi that are industry accepted practices that forms a link or criteria that creates a basis for regulation. With all of this considered, we have the formation of a regulatory structure that sits on top and is scoped to the jurisdictions where the assets live and commerce or activity is being conducted by those DeFi participants. In effect, this is the concept of decentralized regulation, where RegTech can be utilized without having to change the underlying protocols. Only when this problem is solved will we see the next generation of DeFi, or evolution of it, to RealFi. RealFi is about making DeFi work for everybody. Right now, in terms of the current user base, DeFi participants have very much gravitated towards embracing Ponzinomics in the search for the greater fool to make gains with no intention of doing things like rule loans or transactions using this technology. RealFi moves us away from the degeneracy to a world where, as Charles described it, the people that use and benefit from it use it as their primary financial stack, meaning things like bank accounts, credit cards and traditional financial services become secondary in their world. RealFi caters for people who want to use a blockchain and cryptocurrency as their main financial and social system. Rather than operating in a world where the traditional financial systems either refuse access to billions of people or impact the majority negatively with high interest rates, through RealFi an alternative can be delivered. With blockchain technology, by evolving DeFi to a point where digital assets become secure, stable, global and with extremely low fees, rather than accessing centralized and expensive finance, people across the world will have the option to access decentralized finance, resulting in a far more inclusive, competitive and transparent system. In essence, the move to RealFi delivers total control over your identity, reputation, asset storage, and choice over the products and services you use. This is what Cardano means when it says it wants to become the financial operating system of the world. Being a superset of DeFi, where through its added capabilities discussed and particular philosophy on the user base, RealFi will give birth to a system that the user base actually wants to participate in rather than has to participate in. Charles closed off with something that really resonated with me, explaining we're at the very beginnings of this new economy taking shape, and whilst it's an immensely complex and difficult task at hand, in bringing this concept through to become a reality, there is so much promise on the horizon. The difference with the blockchain movement and makings of a world financial operating system is that this isn't the innovation of an individual or company, but an innovation of an entire industry through the open sourcing of tens of billions of dollars worth of innovation. Through open sourcing the technology, it enables the collective of people across the entire world to drive forward this innovation rather than it being in the hands of a powerful few, and this is how radical change truly comes about. Now to a major development which I think is going fairly unnoticed by the wider community concerning IAMX Identity and ties in very nicely with the subject of RealFi becoming a reality. IAMX Identity, the self-sovereign identity solution provider powered by the Cardano blockchain, which you may remember we previously covered in their recent partnership with KYC Spider, a leading regtech and digital compliance firm who are responsible for securely storing over 27 million distinct KYC data records, on Thursday gave us this update. Here, IAMX announced a world premiere, confirming that as of the 1st of December, they became the first company in the world to connect a DID to a regulated KYC/KYB verification with a fully GDPR-compliant approach. In partnership with KYC Spider, the IAMX model utilizes zero-knowledge proofs, enabling the user to maintain full sovereignty over their identity, its associated credentials, and in addition, users will be able to make changes to this information whenever necessary. Through the IAMX KYC/KYB portal, users can now validate their identity and are then issued a corresponding KYC DID. When logging into a platform such as an exchange or marketplace and their digital wallet is connected, the DID is then used for the platform to automatically check for the appropriate KYC information. If the DID reflects compliance with the legal requirements relevant to the platform, the user is then granted access. Currently, from what I understand, the use of IAMX DIDs for KYC will be dependent on the market penetration of KYC Spider. However, KYC Spider will not be the only issuer. IAMX will continue onboarding through a variety of companies who have millions of KYCs on their databases. Being the first company in the world to connect a DID to a regulated KYC/KYB verification that is fully GDPR compliant is a major step in the journey of RealFi becoming a reality, and we're going to continue following the developments of IAMX very closely on Cardano Insights. Now to the development of a killer application that has the progression of RealFi built into its DNA. You may remember this week we discussed Rogan after Gogan and the idea that Charles wanted to ensure having a product available that could really capture the most value from the audience the Joe Rogan podcast affords. We touched on Lace Wallet being this exact product that could seamlessly onboard users to start their journey into Cardano and Web3 technology, and speculated that considering Charles had recently made a very public approach to Joe Rogan asking when podcast over Twitter, that maybe Lace Wallet is very close now to its initial release. Well, we have some interesting and very exciting developments surrounding this highly anticipated wallet's introduction. Today, on the anniversary of Ada Lovelace's birthday, the English mathematician and writer most well known for her work on Charles Babbage's proposed mechanical general-purpose computer, the analytical machine, we got it confirmed that the public beta launch of the Lace platform on the pre-production testnet, which means access will be available to everyone to go and try it out, is now live. The launch took place at 1 PM GMT, which I understand is also the time of Ada Lovelace's birth, a fitting tribute to the lady who inspired the naming of both the Cardano currency ADA and that of Lace Wallet itself. Lace, now on the pre-production network, is a testing environment where you can try out a prototype using test tokens, play around with features and code to provide feedback prior to the mainnet launch. In terms of Lace Wallet, the beta release on pre-production represents the next big step in its development journey, of which we're going to be following very closely here on Cardano Insights. In the meantime, for anyone who has taken part in the Lace Explorers program, and for those who interact with the testnet today, let me know in the comments what your experience has been like so far. Next, we turn to a project we covered previously in the lead up to their testnet launch, who have now announced going live on mainnet, introducing yet another dApp with big impact potential to the ecosystem. Thursday evening, Optim Finance announced their mainnet release, which introduces SPO liquidity bonds, a concept that aims to increase the decentralization of Cardano and enables market participants to profit in excess to their normal ADA staking rewards. With Optim's SPO bonds, small SPOs will be able to borrow cost-effective liquidity from a group of market participants to boost their ADA delegation during the early stages of their operation. This will enable smaller SPOs to mint blocks consistently while providing a competitive staking APR to further increase delegation. SPOs can use the platform to create borrow offers where they set the duration and interest terms that they're willing to agree to if enough liquidity is provided for their stake pool through the execution of an SPO bond. In submitting a borrow offer, SPOs create a pending OPAL where the borrow offer can begin pooling funds from the market participants. Once this is completely filled to meet the ADA required by the SPO, the bond is executed, issuing the loan agreement to the SPO, who will acquire the staking rights from the pool of lenders. In effect, this platform enables anyone to lend ADA into a smart contract, then the borrower, being the SPO, uses this pooled amount as a contribution towards their staking delegation. The ADA never leaves the smart contract. The SPO or borrower only controls the staking key for a set period of time outlined in the smart contract. The stake pool, by utilising the SPO bond, which will be specifically the amount required for said pool to mint blocks consistently, will be able to meet the interest payments as they now have a pool that's functioning and profitable. Interest payments will begin when the bond is executed. For ADA delegators, pools with less than 2 million in ADA do not offer any APY, therefore struggle to attract delegation. SPO bonds can solve this by renting the delegation, and in turn, as the pool becomes profitable, the participants in the bond receive a return on their ADA that combines both staking rewards and the interest agreed in the smart contract SPO bond. I think in Optim Finance, this represents the kind of innovation that we want to see coming out of the Cardano DeFi space, and I'm going to be tracking the progress here very closely. We covered the platform in some detail in a previous video, but if you want to learn more about Optim Finance's initial release, I've linked a helpful article in the description below. Finally today, and as Cardano DeFi continues to evolve, we got yet more developments coming out of the relentless builders at Cardano's first DEX, Muesliswap. Here they introduced organic APR to liquidity pools in anticipation of the soon to arrive concentrated liquidity pools that we discussed last week. So what's organic APR? Well, with Muesliswap intending to become a key player for the trading of and earning on stablecoins, this will require large amounts of liquidity to deliver a smooth trading experience and low price impacts. But traditionally, a DEX will fix an emission schedule for yield farming tokens. Participants then earn a share of the emitted tokens in proportion to their share of the staked liquidity. However, the more liquidity providers participating in the pool results in a reduced APR, therefore removing the incentive to encourage others to join, and this impacts pool growth. Muesliswap, however, in an attempt to counteract this, have devised a formula that aims to create a sustainable APR via the LP fees, where through more liquidity being provided will trigger higher yield farming rewards and therefore greater APR for all participants. The formula has been devised as such to scale with the token emission and is capped at a target liquidity that is intended to ensure optimal trading. By re-engineering the incentive structure, rather than rewards being limited to a fixed amount irrespective of the total staked in the pool, after a tipping point of a certain amount of liquidity is achieved, the emission rate grows with the amount of liquidity coming in to incentivize pool growth and wider participation, with everyone, including new and existing farmers, benefiting from the new APR rate. Initially, in order to incentivize an early group of farmers to join, they've set a minimum emission rate to achieve a good APR for early adopters. Once a previously set target liquidity amount is reached, the emission rate stays at a constant maximum. If liquidity then gets withdrawn and the APR falls below the target, incentives kick back in to quickly bring it back up to the target liquidity. Muesliswap do point out in this Medium article that this proposal is not a strategy for producing yield farm rewards from thin air. Rather, it's a growth strategy for DEX liquidity. The core point is to resolve a conflict of interest in the user. Users want the DEX and its liquidity to thrive, however at the same time they want to remain the main liquidity provider to receive a larger part of the APR. This is the main purpose of this strategy. By making liquidity thrive, users' APR will also increase. Now, this is by no means financial advice, and like everything degen related, yield rewards by nature are never fully sustainable, so you should do thorough research and understand the risks before participating. But in essence, this approach incentivizes users to onboard more liquidity by organic growth. As a result, the increase in trading fees, which are the sustainable part of the APR that is accumulated automatically by AMMs, are then distributed to the liquidity providers. Further to this, Muesliswap also announced the first stablecoin liquidity pool and first organic yield farm on the Cardano blockchain is now live. Now at Muesliswap, Indigo's IUSD paired with ADA powered by organic APR is available. Users can now start earning rewards using stablecoins for the first time on Cardano. For more information on the organic APR, its formula and introduction of IUSD yield farm, check the articles linked in the description below. So that's it for today's installment of Cardano Insights as we keep track of the developments and continue to spread those positive Cardano vibes. If you found value in the content, believe in the RealFi revolution, and want to help Sapien fit as many new subscribers in just one video transaction, Cardano style, then please be sure to comment, share, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, which is the best way you can help support the channel. We'll be back soon with your daily roundups, but until then, thanks for watching, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and as always, keep it Cardano.